Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Onyx Thought podcast or YouTube channel, whichever one you want to go with. I'm Onyx Thought, the face behind the name. So today, I just want us to have a good little conversation about what is the downfall of hip hop. This has been an ongoing conversation that's been going on YouTube as of late. So I wanted to address my thoughts on it myself too. Considering that considering that hip hop is a part of our culture, and it is also rap or songs as a whole is some way in shape or form related to literature. So before I get deep off into talking about what is the history, before talking about what is the downfall, what about we go into a little bit of hip hop history, right? So as we know, hip hop started in the Bronx back in the 1980s amongst African Americans and Caribbeans, believed to have been started by DJ Kool Herc and evolved into many genres throughout New York, heading over to the West Coast, making gangster rap by the end of the 80s, had a couple of hits in the mid 80s. Then within the 1990s, we see that hip hop sprung into a world phenomenon. From ever since 1993, we had never lost, there was never a hip hop record that wasn't number one, right? I won't say a hip hop record that wasn't number one, but at least throughout that year, you had a number one selling album or something that was number one on the charts. So, with that being said, that brings to focus what is causing the downfall and why am I talking about a downfall? Well, this year marks the 1 year where hip hop where hip hop has, until recently with Utopia by Travis Scott, has went without a number one album for the longest, right? So what does it mean when you don't have a number one? It doesn't hit the billboards, right? So hip hop has been having a lull for the past couple of years of not having a number one album. And not for the past couple of years, but hip hop had hit a lull this year where it had the longest run of not having a number one album until Utopia was dropped by Travis Scott. What caused this downfall, or some might say, is hip hop dying right now? That's still up for debate. But what has been causing this lull, as in terms of hip hop becoming slow now? The lull is being caused by several factors. One, the way hip hop is being consumed is different. Music in general, where you have the streaming services, which makes it harder for there to be a number one album just necessarily. So that changes everything in itself. Two, TikTok. So TikTok is also adding on to this lull because many artists aren't looking to be, great artists or to make classic albums anymore. It's more about, okay, how can we make quick money off of hip hop? So it allows anybody to come in and out and not care. So now you put these together, it creates the lull, right? Where you're starting to see, and then here's another one that I forgot to mention before I move on. The other issue with hip hop right now is the factor of trap has lasted way too long as the domineering sound in hip hop. You're looking at trap having lasted 15 years now? At least 15 years. And it reached its peak about probably 10 years ago. So with it becoming the number one sound within hip hop, no sound has lasted that long. Most people are attracted to hip hop for ingenuity. If you think about it, a lot of artists have beats that sound the same nowadays. They don't really sound different. So the longest you typically have a certain type of sound lasting is between probably 5 years. You look at G-Funk, you look at Crunk, you look at all mafioso rap, all of these sounds last at max for about 5 years. And then there's something new that arrives, right? So this sound has lasted the longest out of all of them. Now let's get back to the TikTok factor. Now, you have artists that are treating hip hop as just a quick get rich gig, right? And this has allowed this allows any and everybody to enter into hip hop. And record labels have been treating hip hop as like what's the word? They've been treating hip hop as if it's just day trading, right? Where hip hop is just being treated as a day trade, where okay, you make some quick money off of it. If this artist is what's moving up, you make some quick money off of them, buy in, get out, move on to the next. And it's not like, you know, someone can have like at least a 3-year or 5-year longevity. Now it's only like a few months within hip hop. This hasn't been seen before. So I say this, where did this originate? Where did this concept of hip hop being treated just as purely business or a hustle rather than art and a culture come from originally? So this is not taking from these artists, because there's some of, you know, the most talented individuals that you can name. But it could be argued that Jay-Z started this, right? Or maybe even 50. Now, is it saying that they don't take the art seriously? No, it's not saying that. What it's saying is, if we think about who really made hip hop, like, you know, treating it as a business, handling it as a business, handling it as a hustle, it was Jay who started that trend. Jay is gifted with what he does as an artist, and we know that he loves the art genuinely, right? But Jay was the one who also came in with the idea and thought pattern of, we're doing this purely for the art. We're doing this, like, you know, treating hip hop as like a hustle. It's a gateway to the hustle, right? So you find many more artists who followed behind Jay doing the same thing. However, these individuals weren't as much artists as Jay-Z was, right? So now it opened the gateway for anybody to come in. And the problem with this gateway being open is the fact of, again, it allowed any and everyone to come in, and there was no gatekeeper to hold them back or to stop them from doing that. Because also keep in mind that after Jay had started this, the culture and the mentality started changing, where it wasn't about how good you could rap. It wasn't about, you know, did you honestly treat the skill right? It started becoming about how much money did you make from your sale, right? So now this is what matters. And you start seeing this change within the mentality of the culture, where it was, oh, well, at least they made money off of it. They made money off of it. That's all that matters, right? So now there's no gatekeeper as long as you make money. As long as you make money, there's no gatekeeper. So that makes it easier for other people to enter hip hop, such as, let's think about this now. Everybody was getting upset when Miley Cyrus or Post Malone or all these individuals came into hip hop and they just abandoned it. It's because hip hop had gotten to a point where when Miley Cyrus had entered, anybody could get in, build a name for themselves, get right back out. And we had allowed this to happen because there was no gatekeeping. So and it brings me back to my point. What will it take for hip hop to live and thrive, right? That's probably the question that everybody's asking. And do I have an answer? Maybe not. But there is one thing that I can say. We can take from the points that I did point out, there has to be a new sound. There has to be a new sound that causes a new evolution. Then we also have to look at the factor of we have to get back to putting albums first before putting, you know, like, we have to put albums first before who can make the next TikTok hit single, right? If we're looking at what's going to be the next TikTok hit single, then yes, hip hop is bound to die and it's bound to get old, because there's only so long those songs can go on. And we have allowed hip hop to be commodified by these labels. And we have to decide when enough is enough. Thank you.